The massive alien warship, Crimson Dominion, suddenly appeared at the edge of the Kepler star system like a metal mountain floating in space. Its dark hull was covered with dozens of glowing plasma cannons that could turn entire planets into glass. The ship was so big that Earth's largest cities could fit inside its cargo bays. This was just one of 12 Haelor warships that had come to claim another world for their growing empire. On the bridge of the alien flagship, Commander Talvesh stood looking out at the small blue-green planet spinning peacefully below. His reptilian face showed no emotion as his four muscular arms danced across holographic control panels. Each finger ended in sharp claws that clicked softly against the alien technology. The Haelor had been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years, and this human colony looked like it would be their easiest victory yet. The intelligence files floating in front of Talvesh painted a clear picture. Humans were a young species that still used simple metal bullets and basic energy shields. They had no real space navy to speak of, just a few patrol ships scattered across dozens of systems. The farming colony on Kepler had maybe 50,000 people living in simple dome cities. They grew food for other human worlds and had zero military defenses. It would take less than an hour to capture the entire planet. Talvesh's second-in-command, a younger Haelor with bright orange scales, approached the command chair. "Sir, our scanners show the humans have detected our arrival. They're sending out distress signals on all frequencies." The commander's mouth curved into what might have been a smile if he were human. "Let them call for help. The nearest human military base is 6 days away at their fastest speed. We'll have this world stripped of resources and the population, in work camps long before anyone arrives." Far across the solar system, Captain Lee Minho was having the worst day of his military career. He had been commanding the Human Defense Force destroyer Relentless for 3 years, mostly doing boring patrol runs between mining stations and trade routes. His ship was designed to fight pirates and smugglers, not alien invasion fleets. Now he was staring at his tactical display showing 12 massive enemy warships approaching a defenseless human colony. The bridge of the Relentless was cramped compared to the alien flagship. Banks of computers and monitors covered every wall, their screens showing star charts, weapon readouts, and communication feeds. Captain Minho stood in the center of it all, a compact man in his 30s with serious eyes and graying hair at his temples. His 800 crew members were good people, but they had signed up to protect merchant ships, not fight impossible battles against alien empires. Navigation Officer Park Hyuna looked up from her station with worry written across her young fur. She had joined the Defense Force straight out of the academy, and this was her first real crisis. "Captain, I've calculated intercept courses, but those ships are massive. Our entire vessel could fit inside one of their weapon bays." At the weapon station, Specialist Kim Daewon was running every diagnostic test he could think of. The muscular former Marine had seen combat before, but never against anything like this. "Sir, our magnetic accelerator cannons are functioning, normally, but conventional wisdom says we need at least 5 ships our size to take on one of theirs. They have 12. Lieutenant Choi Minji turned from her communications console, her voice tight with stress. "Captain, I'm receiving multiple distress signals from the colony. The alien fleet will reach them in 4 hours. The nearest reinforcement fleet is the 7th Battle Group, but Admiral Kim says they're 6 days out at maximum speed." Minho walked to the main view screen showing the peaceful farming world of New Harvest. Millions of lights sparkled across the night side of the planet, each one representing families who had traveled across the galaxy to build new lives. Children playing in dome cities. Farmers working fields of genetically modified crops that could feed entire star systems. Scientists studying alien plants that might hold cures for diseases. All of them were counting on him to protect them. "Sir, we should call for reinforcements and shadow the enemy fleet until help arrives," Lieutenant Choi suggested. It was the smart tactical choice, the one that would save his ship and crew for a battle they might actually win. But Minho knew the math. Those alien ships could destroy the colony's atmospheric processors in minutes. Without those machines, 50,000 people would suffocate in less than a day. Even if his ship survived by running away, everyone on New Harvest would be dead before the cavalry arrived. He turned to face his crew, seeing fear and determination mixed in their eyes. These people had volunteered to stand between humanity and the dangers lurking in deep space. Now it was time to find out what that really meant. "All hands battle stations," Minho announced over the ship's intercom. "This is not a drill. We are moving to engage a superior enemy force. Today we find out what humans are really made of. The human destroyer." Relentless, slid out from behind Kepler's third moon like a shark emerging from dark waters. "Captain." Minho had used the moon's bulk to hide his ship's approach, buying precious time to study the alien fleet formation. Now his small vessel faced 12 massive Haelor warships arranged in a perfect hunting pattern around the helpless colony world. On the bridge of the Crimson Dominion, Commander Talvesh felt a surge of amusement when his sensors detected the human ship. The alien commander's 4 eyes focused on the tactical display showing the size comparison between the vessels. The human destroyer was barely 1/8 the length of his flagship and maybe 1/50th the mass. It was like watching a house cat challenge a pack of lions. "Look at this," Talvesh called to his bridge crew, his translator rendering his clicking speech into harsh electronic words. "The humans have sent us a single patrol boat. They must think we are merchants or pirates, not the finest warriors of the Haelor Empire." His weapons officer, a scarred veteran of 19 planetary conquests, studied the readings. "Commander, their ship appears to be broadcasting surrender terms on multiple frequencies. Perhaps they wish to negotiate." Talvesh's reptilian features twisted into what his species considered laughter. Throughout the galaxy, civilized species knew that Haelor plasma weapons could punch through any known armor, while their energy shields could deflect even nuclear weapons. These humans clearly had no idea what they were facing. Opening a communication channel, Talvesh allowed his image to fill the human ship's main screen. His imposing figure stood nearly 8 feet tall, with dark scales covering his muscular frame and 4 powerful arms ending in razor-sharp claws. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of 1,000 conquered worlds. "Human vessel, you are vastly outgunned and completely surrounded. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded, or my fleet will reduce your pathetic ship to cosmic dust. You have 60 seconds to comply before we demonstrate why 19 species kneel before the Haelor Empire." The response came faster than expected. Captain Minho appeared on Talvesh's screen, and the alien commander was surprised by what he saw. Instead of fear or desperation, the human's dark eyes showed only cold calculation. Minho sat calmly in his command chair, hands folded, looking like he was about to discuss the weather rather than face impossible odds. "Commander Talvesh," Minho began in perfect Haelor, causing surprised clicks from the alien bridge crew. "Before we begin, I'm curious about something. Are you familiar with human military history?" The question caught Talvesh off guard. He had expected begging or threats, not casual conversation. "Your species' barbaric past holds no interest for civilized beings," he replied dismissively. "You fight with crude weapons and primitive tactics. Your wars are messy affairs lacking the elegance of true military science." Captain Minho nodded thoughtfully, as if the alien had just confirmed something important. "Then you've made your first mistake, Commander. You see, humans have been fighting wars for over 5,000 years. Not against weaker species like you've conquered, but against other humans. Enemies exactly like ourselves. Intelligent, adaptable, creative, and absolutely ruthless when survival is on the line." Behind the captain, Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-won quietly activated systems that didn't appear on any official ship specifications. Hidden compartments opened throughout the Relentless, revealing weapons that the Defense Force had been testing in secret for years. The ship's power core, already running hot, began channeling energy into experimental systems that most admirals didn't even know existed. "Every human conflict has been a laboratory," Minho continued, his voice growing colder. "We've learned to fight enemies who think like us, who can predict our moves, who adapt to our strategies in real time. Your empire conquers species that surrender when they see superior firepower. We learn to fight species that never give up, never stop innovating, and turn every defeat into a lesson for the next battle." Talvesh felt the first hint of unease creeping into his confidence. Something about the human's tone suggested this wasn't going to be the easy victory he had expected. "Enough talk," he snapped. "All ships assume containment formation. Target the human vessel's engines and weapons. We'll take them alive for questioning." The Haelor fleet smoothly shifted into a perfect sphere around the tiny human destroyer. Plasma cannons powered up with menacing energy signatures while shield generators hummed at full capacity. It was a formation they had used successfully, against countless enemies. Overwhelming firepower from every angle with no possibility of escape. But as the alien ships moved into position, Captain Minho did something unexpected. Instead of trying to run or firing desperately at the nearest target, he launched the relentless opening salvo at 3 specific asteroids floating in the outer system. The shot seemed random, almost wasteful, causing Talvesh to laugh again. Humans panic and waste ammunition on rocks," he announced to his crew. "Begin the attack." What Commander Talvesh didn't know was that those 3 asteroids had been carefully selected during the relentless approach. Each one contained specific mineral compositions that would serve as weapons delivery systems for technology the Haelor Empire had never encountered. Captain Minho wasn't firing wildly. He was loading the battlefield with tools that would turn the aliens' advantages into fatal weaknesses. The war was about to begin, and the Haelor were about to learn why humans had never lost a species-wide conflict. The 3 asteroids that Captain Minho had targeted weren't chosen by accident. During the relentless approach to the Kepler system, the ship's advanced scanners had analyzed every piece of space rock within 1,000,000 kilometers. What looked like random chunks of ice and metal to the Haelor were actually carefully selected ammunition dumps that had been floating in space for millions of years. When the human ship's magnetic accelerator rounds slammed into the asteroids at incredible speed, they didn't just shatter the rocks. The impacts released clouds of microscopic machines that had been dormant inside the asteroid cores since the system formed. These nanites were originally designed by human engineers for deep space mining operations, capable of breaking down any material at the molecular level and rebuilding it into useful components. Commander Talvesh watched the asteroid impacts with growing confusion. His tactical display showed thousands of small debris fragments spreading throughout the battle zone, but his shields were easily deflecting anything larger than a pebble. The human captain's strategy made no sense. Wasting precious ammunition on space rocks when facing 12 warships seemed like the action of a panicked amateur. "Sir, the debris field is expanding rapidly," reported his sensor operator, a young Haelor with nervous energy in his voice. "Should we adjust our formation to avoid the larger fragments?" Talvesh waved dismissively with 2 of his forearms. "Maintain position. Our shields can handle anything those rocks can throw at us. The humans are desperate and making foolish choices. Begin charging weapons for full bombardment." What the Haelor commander couldn't see was the real threat spreading. Invisibly through space, the nanite swarms were so small that they passed right through the alien energy shields like they weren't even there. To the Haelor sensors, these molecular machines registered as harmless space dust, if they registered at all. The shields were designed to stop energy beams and large projectiles, not microscopic attackers that could slip between atoms. The nanites found their targets quickly. The moment they made contact with the Haelor ship's hulls, they began their programmed function of breaking down materials and reconstructing them. But instead of mining useful metals, they started eating away at the alien armor plating from the inside out. The composite materials that made Haelor ships nearly indestructible began dissolving like sugar in hot water. Back on the Relentless, Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-won monitored the nanite deployment from her station deep in the ship's engine room. Banks of computers showed her exactly where each swarm was working, creating a 3-dimensional map of structural damage spreading across the enemy fleet. Years of testing had taught human engineers exactly how to program these machines for maximum effect. "Captain, nanite saturation is at 40% and climbing," she reported through the comm system. "Estimated time to critical structural weakness is 8 minutes for the escort ships, 15 minutes for the larger vessels." Captain Minho nodded grimly as he watched the Haelor fleet maintaining their attack formation, completely unaware that their ships were being consumed from within. This was the human way of war, Not overwhelming force, but intelligence and preparation, turning enemy strengths into fatal weaknesses. Tactical Officer Song, prepare firing solutions for targeted strikes, Minho ordered. Wait for my command. Song. Minho's fingers danced across her weapons console, calculating precise targeting data for each enemy vessel. The 28-year-old had graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy, specializing in what instructors called precision warfare, the art of doing maximum damage with minimum resources. Her computer systems were already identifying the exact points where nanite damage would be most severe. Commander Talvesh first noticed something was wrong when his flagship's damage control alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. Red warning lights flashed as automated systems detected hull breaches in sections that hadn't been hit by any weapons. His engineering officer's report made no sense. Sir, we're showing structural failures in 17 different locations. But there's no record of weapons impacts at those coordinates. It's like the hull is just dissolving. Impossible, Talvesh muttered, his confidence finally beginning to crack. He pulled up tactical displays showing his entire fleet, and his four eyes widened in shock. Every ship was reporting similar mysterious damage. Whatever the humans had done, it was affecting his entire force simultaneously. That's when the Relentless began its real attack. The small human destroyer suddenly accelerated through the debris field with impossible grace, its pilot navigating between chunks of asteroid like a dancer moving through falling snow. The ship's magnetic accelerator cannons swiveled toward their first target, a Haelor escort vessel that was already weakened by 8 minutes of nanite consumption. The tungsten slugs that erupted from the human weapons weren't like anything the Haelor had ever encountered. Each projectile was no bigger than a pencil, but moving at nearly the speed of light. When they hit, they carried kinetic energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion, concentrated into a space smaller than a coin. The math was simple but devastating. Even a tiny mass becomes an unstoppable force when accelerated to relativistic speeds. Song Mina's first shot hit the escort ship exactly where her computer predicted the nanites had created maximum structural weakness. The tungsten slug punched through the alien armor like it was made of paper, continued through the ship's interior, and exited the other side in a spray of vaporized metal and atmosphere. The escort vessel broke apart in seconds, its crew never understanding what had killed them. Target destroyed, Song reported calmly, already lining up her next shot. Moving to secondary target, the second escort lasted 30 seconds longer than the first. The third managed to return fire once before a tungsten slug found its reactor core and turned the ship into an expanding cloud of superheated gas. In 12 minutes of actual combat, 3 Haelor warships had been reduced to scrap metal. The human destroyer remained completely untouched, dancing through space like it was performing a ballet instead of fighting for its life. Commander Talvesh finally understood the terrible truth. His technologically superior fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought unlike anything he had ever encountered before. Commander Talvesh stared at the tactical display in complete shock as his third escort vessel disappeared in a ball of superheated plasma. Half of his fleet was gone, destroyed by a single human ship that should have been nothing more than target practice. His reputation as a conqueror of 19 worlds was crumbling along with his carefully planned invasion. The alien commander's 4 arms trembled with rage and humiliation as he realized the truth. These humans weren't the primitive species his intelligence reports had described. They were something far more dangerous, a race that had learned to fight dirty and win against impossible odds. Every assumption the Haelor Empire had made about humanity was proving fatally wrong. Sir, we're receiving damage reports from all remaining vessels, his communications officer reported with barely controlled panic. The microscopic attackers are still consuming our hull plating. Engineering estimates we have maybe 20 minutes before critical structural failure across the entire fleet. Talvesh's mind raced through his options. Retreat would mean admitting defeat to a single enemy ship, destroying his career, and possibly his life when he faced the Empire's high command. But staying meant watching his entire fleet dissolve around him, while that cursed human destroyer picked them apart one by one. That's when desperation gave birth to a terrible idea. If he couldn't defeat the humans in honorable combat, he would make sure they gained nothing from their victory. The agricultural colony below had 50,000 civilians who had never fired a shot in anger. They would pay the price for their military's unexpected competence. All ships, new target priority, Talvesh commanded, his voice carrying the cold fury of a cornered predator. Ignore the human warship. Focus all weapons on the planetary surface. If we cannot capture this system, we'll ensure it holds no value. For humans, begin orbital bombardment immediately. The remaining 9 Haelor vessels turned their massive plasma cannons toward the defenseless world below. Each ship carried enough firepower to glass continents, and together, they could render the entire planet uninhabitable within hours. The colony's atmospheric processors would be the first targets, condemning the population to slow suffocation even if they survived the initial attack. On the bridge of the Relentless, Captain Minho watched the enemy fleet reposition with growing horror. He had expected the aliens to retreat or continue fighting his ship, not turn their weapons on innocent civilians. This was exactly the kind of tactical shift that made human warfare so unpredictable. When conventional strategies failed, anything became possible. "Sir, they're targeting the colony," reported Lieutenant Choi from communications, her voice tight with controlled fear. "Plasma cannon signatures are charging to full power. Estimated time to firing solution is 3 minutes. Minho's jaw clenched as he calculated the math. His ship could maybe destroy 2 more enemy vessels before they completed their bombardment, but that would still leave 7 ships with enough firepower to kill everyone on the planet. The nanites were working, but not fast enough to save 50,000 innocent lives. "All crew, initiate Protocol 7, Minho announced over the ship's intercom. His voice carried a weight that made every person aboard understand they were about to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Yoon Ji-won's hands moved across control panels that most naval officers didn't even know existed. Protocol 7 was classified at levels so secret that only 3 people on the ship were authorized to know its full capabilities. It represented humanity's darkest scientific achievement. Weapons that didn't just destroy matter but manipulated the fundamental forces that held reality together. "Quantum torpedo array coming online," Yoon reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was activating. "Temporal displacement field generators are charged and ready. Sir, once we fire this weapon, there's no hiding what we're capable of anymore." Captain Minho understood the implications perfectly. The experimental quantum torpedoes were humanity's most closely guarded secret, developed in black projects that officially didn't exist. Using them would reveal to the galaxy that humans had mastered technologies that most civilizations couldn't even theorize about. "Fire when ready, Chief." The quantum torpedo that launched from the Relentless looked nothing like a conventional weapon. Instead of explosive warheads or kinetic penetrators, it carried a payload of exotic matter contained within magnetic fields that bent space itself. When it struck the Haelor flagship, Crimson Dominion, it didn't explode in any traditional sense. Instead, it created a bubble of accelerated time around the massive alien vessel. While seconds passed for the rest of the universe, centuries flowed by within the temporal distortion field. Commander Talvesh felt his body aging rapidly as decades compressed into heartbeats. His forearms withered to bone, his scales cracked and fell away, and his eyes clouded with the passage of time that should have taken lifetimes. The Crimson Dominion aged along with its crew. Metal fatigue that normally required centuries happened in moments. Systems failed as components exceeded their operational lifespans in seconds. The mighty dreadnought that had conquered worlds crumbled into cosmic dust as entropy claimed its due and fast forward. The remaining 8 Haelor vessels watched their flagship simply fade away like it had never existed. The sight broke whatever fighting spirit they had left. These humans wielded weapons that violated the fundamental laws of physics, turning time itself into an instrument of war. "All ships retreat immediately," transmitted the senior surviving captain, his voice cracking with terror. "Emergency jump to hyperspace. Abandon the system." But as the alien ships desperately tried to escape, They discovered that Captain Minho had been planning for this moment from the beginning. Navigation Officer Park Hyuna had quietly deployed dozens of hunter-killer drones throughout the Kepler system during the battle, each one no larger than a refrigerator, but carrying miniaturized versions of the relentless weapons. The fleeing. Haelor ships found themselves running into carefully positioned ambushes at every jump point. Tungsten slugs traveling at near light speed punched through their weakened hulls, while nanite swarms continued their molecular assault. One by one, the surviving vessels were hunted down and destroyed before they could escape to warn their empire. In the end, not a single Haelor ship survived to report what had happened in the Kepler system. As far as their empire would know, an entire battle fleet had simply vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and fear. The Haelor High Command received the first distress signals 3 days after the battle at Kepler ended. Deep in the Empire's capital world, military leaders gathered around holographic displays showing scattered emergency transmissions from their missing fleet. What they saw defied everything they thought they knew about warfare in the galaxy. The automated recordings were fragmentary and terrifying. Sensor logs showed impossible weapons that aged matter through time itself. Combat footage revealed tiny human machines eating through armor that had withstood plasma cannons for centuries. Most disturbing of all were the final transmissions from Commander Talvesh's flagship, showing the proud vessel simply crumbling into dust, as if centuries had passed in seconds. General Vex Kala, the Haelor Empire's supreme military commander, studied the recordings with growing unease. Her 6 eyes focused on tactical displays that made no logical sense. A single human destroyer had systematically destroyed 12 of their finest warships, using technologies that shouldn't exist. The implications were staggering. "How is this possible?" demanded Admiral Zarthon, commander of the Third Fleet. His scarred face showed the confusion that was spreading through the entire Haelor military establishment. "Our intelligence reports indicated humans were a primitive species with basic kinetic weapons. These recordings show capabilities that exceed our own." The intelligence officer responsible for human analysis, a nervous younger Haelor named Kexmar, shifted uncomfortably under the weight of dozens of hostile stares. "Sir, our data was gathered from encounters with human merchant vessels and mining operations. We had no information about their military capabilities because they've never fought a major interstellar war. Until now," General Vex Kala replied grimly. She enhanced the holographic display to show the final moments of the Crimson Dominion. "What we're seeing here isn't just advanced technology. It's a completely different approach to warfare. They didn't try to overpower our shields or outgun our weapons. Instead, they found ways to make our advantages irrelevant." The truth was spreading through Haelor space like a plague. Their military doctrine, which had conquered 19 different species across the galaxy, was based on overwhelming technological superiority. They had plasma weapons that could melt through any known armor. They had energy shields that could deflect nuclear explosions. They had ships so massive that enemy fleets would surrender rather than face certain destruction. But the humans had fought differently. They used microscopic machines that ignored shields completely. They fired kinetic weapons at speeds that turned tiny slugs into planet killers. Most terrifying of all, they had weapons that manipulated time itself, aging enemy ships into dust in moments. It was as if they had rewritten the rules of physics to suit their needs. Meanwhile, in human space, Captain Minho's report to Defense Command was typically brief and understated. Standing in the communications center of a military base orbiting Earth, he delivered his summary with the same calm professionalism he had shown during the battle. "Colony secured, 12 hostile vessels neutralized, 0 human casualties. Currently pursuing scattered remnants across 3 adjacent systems." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "Recommend immediate deployment of advanced defensive platforms to all frontier colonies. The Haelor Empire will likely respond with significantly larger forces." Admiral Park Jinsu, the graying commander of human defense forces, nodded approvingly. The old man had spent 40 years preparing for humanity's first contact with hostile aliens, and Minho's performance had exceeded every expectation. "Captain, your use of experimental weapons protocols has been noted and approved retroactively. How many enemy survivors are you tracking? 17 individual vessels scattered across multiple systems, sir. Most appear to be attempting to reach Haelor. Territory to report on our capabilities. I estimate another week to eliminate all remaining threats. What the Haelor Empire didn't understand was that humans had spent their entire evolutionary history fighting enemies exactly like themselves. Intelligent, adaptable, creative, and completely ruthless when survival was at stake. Every human, war had been against opponents who could think, plan, and innovate in real time. Species that could learn from defeats and turn them into future victories. The aliens had conquered 19 worlds by showing up with superior firepower and demanding surrender. Most civilizations, faced with obviously superior technology, had submitted rather than face annihilation. It was logical, efficient, and had worked perfectly for over 1,000 years. But humans had learned to fight species that never gave up, never stopped innovating, and treated every defeat as a learning experience for the next battle. Human military history was filled with smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior tactics, better technology, or simple refusal to accept impossible odds. When the Haelor reinforcement fleets finally arrived at Kepler, they found the Relentless had already departed. The human destroyer was systematically hunting down every survivor across 3 star systems, ensuring that no witnesses could return to report on humanity's true capabilities. The colony world below showed no signs of damage, its 50,000 inhabitants completely unaware of how close they had come to annihilation. The war that followed would reshape the galaxy's understanding of military power. Species that had relied on technological superiority for millennia suddenly found themselves facing an enemy that treated war as applied problem-solving rather than conquest. The Haelor Empire's fatal error wasn't underestimating one human warship. It was believing that advanced weapons could substitute for advanced thinking. As news of the defeat spread through alien civilizations, a new phrase began appearing in military communications across the galaxy. Never fight the humans the way they expect to be fought. It was advice that would save countless lives in the conflicts to come, as species learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their refusal to fight fair when survival was on the line. The age of easy conquest was over. The humans had arrived and they played by rules that no one else understood.